Hey, hey, hey!
Hey Mel,
What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. So today, we have a phenomenal guest. We have Miss Deiera Bennett, and Deiera is an executive LinkedIn strategist and ghostwriter. And her clients include founders and executives of multi-million and multi-billion-dollar companies in industries such as healthcare, recruitment, logistics, and IT. In addition to ghostwriting, she also manages the marketing for an educational technology startup company. And today we're going to be talking about the secrets to really creating an exceptional LinkedIn presence and really basically how to show up like a LinkedIn pro. So she's going to be giving us some insights on how we can do this and show up as if we are an expert at LinkedIn and we are building our brands. So welcome, Deiera.
Thank you. I love that intro.
It's all you.
Okay, so where do I even start? I'll say that I noticed that a lot of Black women executives are not active on LinkedIn.
Mm,
That's why I was so excited when you asked me to be on the podcast because I know that's your main audience. And the thing is, like, by not being on LinkedIn and active on LinkedIn, you're missing out. You're missing out on potential clients, you're missing out on potential partnerships, and you're not establishing yourself and your personal brand in a way that separates you from the company that you might work for. You
mm-hmm.
told me some of your audience members are like CEOs or C level for companies, and others have their own businesses. But the thing
Right.
is, on LinkedIn, it needs to be about you as opposed to the company that you work for, because you can separate from the company you work for. And then
Right.
now you look at your LinkedIn and it's nothing about you.
Mm. So let's go back for a quick second
Okay.
because you started off by talking about how you feel like women of color don't really show up on LinkedIn.
hmm
Why do you think that is? Do you have any theories around why we feel we're not really showing up in comparison to some of our maybe non-colored counterparts?
Um, well, I would say the biggest reason is there's just not as many of us in general. So it's going to be way more people who aren't Black women than who are Black women. But even in my real life, a lot of Black women I know aren't on there. And I think it could come from just not knowing, not understanding what LinkedIn can do for them. When it first came around, it was just viewed as this resume website. If you're not looking for a job, then what's the point of being on LinkedIn?
Right.
It wasn't
Right.
until I got back on LinkedIn and started the career services company I had a while ago that I realized, oh, wow, people are actually doing things other than looking for jobs on here. It's not just supposed to be your resume, there's value in it. And so I think people who just aren't around others who are active on LinkedIn still have that
Mm-hmm.
viewpoint that it's just for job seekers. And these are executives that we're talking about, so they aren't looking for jobs.
Right. Right.
So
And
I
you
think
know
that's the
what?
biggest reason.
Yeah, and you know what? Now that we're talking about this, right? It's similar to like we kind of separate ourselves from whitewashed environments.
hmm
And I think we perceive LinkedIn as such in a sense, right? Because I know for me, for example, when I used to be, in the resume writing world, I would tell, I don't even know if I should be talking about this publicly, but I would tell other resume writers that, we're black and things like, hey, are you going to this conference or that conference or this event or that event? And they'd be like, no, it looks kind of dry and boring.
hmm
And so I'm like, well, we still need to come to learn and network and things like that. And I think there's a wall we almost put up where we feel like, we're not going to be necessarily feeling inclusive anyway. So
hmm
I have no real interest in going there. And I feel like LinkedIn has a little bit of that.
I can definitely see that. And some of that is probably true. I know just being on LinkedIn, I write for people who have I write for white men, Asian men, white women. Um, I write for people from different countries. I only write for one black woman actually. Everyone
Mm,
other race or a different gender. And so I
wow.
do see differences. Like some of their content is similar because they're in similar spaces. And I do notice, like, okay, this person gets significantly more engagement than this other person. And oftentimes it is like the the clients who are minorities who might not get as much. And so I've always found that interesting. And even for me, like I'll write a post sometimes for me, but I've been slacking on the engagement, which I'll talk about later, and that's a big issue. But that's what happens when your LinkedIn works and you get clients and you're busy.
Right.
But I've noticed like I can write a post for like a male client and they get hundreds of reactions and comments and all of these kinds of things. And there are other factors that play into it,
I
but
would
I
imagine.
can definitely see how someone who isn't familiar with how LinkedIn works could see that as intimidating
Mm-hmm.
and like, well, maybe I
Right.
shouldn't be posting. There's no
Mm,
space for me here. So I can definitely
right.
see how it can be misinterpreted in that way. When in reality, it all has to do with who's in your network and how much engagement you're doing on your end.
Mm. So let's talk about that. Let's dive into some of those kind of key pieces to LinkedIn and showing up, right, with a strong presence on LinkedIn and
Mhm.
empowered presence. And so, what is that all about? Talk to me about the engagement piece because I know that's very important, but a lot of people don't realize the importance of it. So, talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so engagement is just as important as posting, if not more. And when I say engagement, I'm talking about commenting on posts, connecting with people, and messaging them. Basically, just starting these business relationships with people without just saying, "Hey, buy my product." That's don't do that. So a few reasons why it's good to engage. One, on the technical sense, the algorithm um, pushes your content out to the people you engage with the most who engage back. And so if you comment on someone's post, chances are they're going to visit your profile, see something they like your post as well. And so now the algorithm picks up on that and says, okay, this is whose content we need to show this content to this person because they like each other. And so that's why it's really important to find your target audience on there and start engaging with their posts, comment on their posts, connect with them, send them messages, not salesy messages, but just, personalized messages that let them know that you are actually interested in learning more about what they do or, things like that.
Yeah.
So the algorithm, that's a huge part of it. On a personal level, people buy from people who they have relationships with, people that they like. And so the more that you engage with certain people on there, the more comfortable they become with you, the more they start to trust you, the more they see your content, they understand your expertise, then that's when they will come to you when they have a need for something you offer. And so it's both of those reasons, the algorithm and just relationships. And like I
Yeah.
mentioned, you don't want to come off salesy when you're engaging or with posting. That is just a big no. Because the same way you don't like to be just sold to and looked
Right.
at as just money, nobody else does as well either. And I see that a lot on LinkedIn. A lot,
Yeah.
way too much.
So let me ask you this because, as a business owner, we are trying to sell something,
Right.
right? That is the goal. So, how do we maneuver that conversation so it doesn't come off that way? And then I feel like, is there a feeling of kind of like that you're not being sincere by just kind of trying to build a relationship, but really you're just looking at this person as a dollar sign? Like, talk to us a little bit about that, how that all plays out, and like what can you say that won't come off too salesy?
So you have to have a genuine interest in the people. So people who have businesses and they don't actually care about
Mm.
providing solutions to their clients, I don't know what to tell them in particular because people can read right through that, you know? But if you do actually know, like, I believe in what I'm offering, I know that this will help this person, that authenticity will shine through. Um, and it will make you have an interest in this person. It'll make you want to learn more about them. You should never pitch to them in their first message unless they comment on your post saying they want to learn more, they message you first. You should never pitch to someone in the first message because they don't know you, they don't trust you, they have no reason to like you. um it's just like if somebody just walks up to you and say, "Hey, can you give me, let's say your product is $200. Can you give me $200?" Like, I don't even know you. I don't even know your name. I don't know anything about you. Like, why would I give you $200?
Right.
That's what's happening when you just jump into people's messages. But on the other hand, when you show a genuine interest, and it does need to be a genuine interest, they can sense that. You check in from time to time. You comment on their post, and you add value to it. Like, you say something worth something on it.
Mm.
That's how
Right.
you really build that relationship up. Something I learned from, what was the book? I cannot remember the book names. I think it was How to Win Friends and Influence People, but I'm not 100% sure. But people like people who allow them to talk about themselves.
Yep.
They find you more likable if you just ask them questions about themselves. You
About
give them
themselves.
opportunities to share, to share things. And so do that. When you're talking to people,
Hmm.
ask them questions, show that curiosity. You're giving them chances to talk about themselves. And then they're like, wow, I really like this person.
Yep.
You also got to think of LinkedIn as more of a long game because it is dependent upon the relationships that you build. So you shouldn't think, I'm going to post this, comment here, message this person, I should have sales. That's just not
Mm.
how it works. It can take months of interacting with people in order to convert them to clients. And I mean, it takes even longer if you have a higher ticket item.
Right. 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 But you know what's funny? Every single day, I get I swear, like a dozen of these same type of um, messages in my inbox that you're talking about not to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, hey there, we have this thing. Click the
Yeah.
link. Go get my thing. Go buy this thing. Go book a call. And I'm like, it has to be working in some way because they still doing it. So somebody is responding to them. No, are they just
I
hitting
think
a
a lot
dead
of them
horse?
are automated.
Because
Yeah, I think a lot of them are automated. I get a lot of automated
oh
ones.
yeah, they're definitely
So many
automated. So I
ones.
guess there's probably a percentage conversion there.
Maybe so, but if you're doing this, you got to think about what your time is worth, And so
Hmm.
maybe 1 out of 1,000 people will
Right.
convert, but do you have time to spam 1,000 people? Probably not, especially if you aren't selling a higher ticket item, which higher ticket items, they're not going to respond like that. Um, So maybe it works for them, but I haven't met anybody who is like, "Yeah, I love getting cold DMs. I go to the website every time."
Exactly.
Like, I haven't heard anybody who says that. And the thing is, even if you convert that 1 out of 1,000 clients, you left a bad taste in the mouth of the other 999. And so now those are people who will never become clients because they feel like
Yeah.
they're questioning your credibility. Because surely if you're credible, you don't have to do it this way.
Right.
And that's
Right.
not against, cold emails and cold DMs all the time, because sometimes it is a matter, and I know this as a freelancer, sometimes it is a matter of, looking on their website and seeing what they might need and how your services might fit. That's totally different from spamming someone. I still personally wouldn't recommend that because that is time consuming. But if you're going to send those kinds of messages, make sure that it's personalized. Make sure that you can, they can tell that you're not sending the same message you send to everybody else.
Yeah. You know what's a easy way that I know it's automated? I don't even read the rest. when it says hello Melanie L dot,
Yeah.
because I have my L dot, right?
Hmm.
So clearly this is automation because the system doesn't recognize that that's, you don't put that as a first name.
Exactly.
So I get so many messages with Melanie L dot, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. Mine will have my entire name and headline in it in bold. And I'm like, well, this is clearly
yeah,
this is clearly fake.
right,
And it instantly, even if it's a legit business, I instantly think they're trying to scam me.
yeah, and it's unfortunate because they probably have good, great services, you know,
Yeah,
but it's
maybe.
the marketing tactic. It just doesn't. It's
No.
just no good. But anyway, all right. So we're not doing that today, Deiera, because you said that's not how you do business.
Mm-mm.
So tell us a little bit more about how we can actually get clients from LinkedIn. I know you said it was a long game, but what are we doing in between from that first initial contact to actually get the sale? Any tips around that?
So you're engaging with them and you post. So the content that you're posting needs to be educational, informative, all of that. And the thing is you can't get caught up on like reactions and comments
Mm-hmm.
and things like that because if you notice the posts that go viral are the posts that are kind of generic, they're broad, they don't give you any actionable tips.
Mm,
Like I know in the career space, one that I'm always seeing is companies should give people with no experience a chance,
yeah.
things like that. It is like, okay, cool, you got 100 or 1,000 likes on this, but you didn't show anybody that you
Mm,
have any expertise. You didn't give anyone a reason to trust you. You didn't give them anything. All you did was regurgitate something that you've seen that works. And because it applies to all the job seekers, they eat it up,
mm-hmm.
but they're not about to hire you because you didn't give them a reason to. And so you have to post content that shows people this is what I do. I know what I'm talking about. And you do that by giving them advice and tips. So, for example, um, let's say that you are, and I don't know why this is the example because plumbers probably wouldn't do the best on LinkedIn, but let's say that you're a plumber. And so, right, we'll use resume writing because a lot of career people are probably in your audience as well. So you can post advice about how to create bullet points, how to create a professional summary. You can post things like that people can actually take action on. But the thing is, it'll also show people, I don't feel like doing this, but she knows how to do it, so I'm going to hire her.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't want to chance it, so I'm going to hire this person. And so what you've done is you've shown them if you want to do it yourself, you can do it. Um, but if you don't want to do it yourself, I know what I'm talking about. So you can come to me.
Right.
And so you don't tell all your secrets because you need to keep a little something. But you can share a lot because the other thing is, even if you do share everything you know on LinkedIn, let's say over a year, you share everything you know, people are not about to go through all of your posts in order to figure out what to do. And if they do have the time to do that and the energy to do that, then they weren't going to ever be your client anyway. And
But
so,
then,
hmm,
but then you also actually help them, and that's not such a bad thing.
exactly, exactly. So you are helping them. So it's a way to help the people who can't afford or are unable to pay for your services, um, while also identifying the ones who can. And that's how I got a lot of clients when I had my career services company. I would teach them all kinds of stuff on LinkedIn. And some of them would just be like, I tried, I'm
Mm,
tired of this, I'm frustrated. Can you just do it for me? And then they saw the value in what I was doing. I didn't have to justify my pricing because they tried to do it on their own and they realized, oh, this is more difficult than it seems.
right.
And so that can often be the case depending on the kind of company that you have where, you teach them things and you either help them for free from your LinkedIn posts or they hire you. And that's also, I would also get people who were saying like they couldn't afford my services. And that's when I was like, that's fine. I post a lot of free content on LinkedIn. And so it's a way of being nice, about the fact like I can't help you for free because this is my job, this is my career. But I do have these resources for you that can still help you. And then you never know, they might convert later or they might refer you to somebody else.
Right. That's what I was going to say next. Like, that's going to be one of your raving fans.
Exactly. Because they see like that you actually care enough to share this content. So that's why I say it's also a long game because you don't build trust from one post.
Hmm.
You just don't. Um and when I was talking about the numbers thing, I had posts that got like 100 reactions, hundreds of comments. I mean, 1,000 reactions, hundreds of comments, made not one sale from it.
Mm,
I didn't. And it was because it was broad enough to appeal to so many people. It was general enough to
right.
appeal to a lot of people. What it did was attract
Mm,
followers. So there is a place for those broader general ones, not fluffy. I don't like that the fluffy content. They do it
what?
does
Give me an example of a fluffy content.
um let's see. Like the one that I gave, like companies should give
Oh,
people with no experience a chance.
right, right.
It's
Got
about
it.
your attitude and skills can be taught and um
Yeah.
things like that. That's what I would say is kind of fluffy content. Like you really didn't say anything.
Right,
You
right,
said
right.
something, or there'll be like unpopular opinion, and then say something that everybody agrees with. It's like it looks so desperate to me. It really does.
Mm,
It looks desperate for likes, and like you really don't understand what you're doing here. So you can still post
mm.
general, broad content that's relevant to your audience. It might be relevant to a few more people. Like for example, you help people build their personal brands, but you that doesn't mean that you can't do like a broader post about success, and that's
Right.
going to appeal to people who aren't your potential clients. um but what it does is it'll attract more followers because it's seen by more people, and so then when you start posting the content that is specific to your target audience, that is when
Hmm.
they can, they'll see it because you already attracted them. So there is a place for those broader, more general posts, um
Hmm.
but don't make it fluffy.
Gotcha. So if you had to like ration out the percentage of broader posts, versus those educational value packed posts out of the 7 days in a week, how should we ration those out?
um well, first off, I don't think anybody has time to post 7 days a week. I don't.
Okay, so 30
5 days.
days in a month.
Um, I would say so. I'll go off of, let's say you're posting 5 days a week. Then I would say maybe one day.
Oh, maybe one day do a broad post.
Yeah, but it still has to be relevant to your audience. That's the thing.
Right.
Broad but not fluffy. So, you know, time management tips. It's something that's helpful to people outside of your target audience, but it's
Hmm.
still
Hmm.
relevant to your target audience. That's what I would consider a more broad post. Whereas a specific post might be, um, the top useful tools to build your personal brand, because then it's only going to appeal to the ones who care about building a professional brand, not everybody who has an issue with time management. So you always want to
Right.
make sure it's relevant regardless, but you really want to post that actionable, specific
Hmm.
content because that's what tells people they can trust you and that's what shows your expertise.
So now, how do you constantly, well, before we go there, how often, since you said 7 days a week, don't have time for, how often should we be posting? Is it the 5 times?
No, so the clients that I've worked with at Shift,
Mhm.
some post twice a week, some post 3 times a week. And that tends to be enough. The most important thing is that consistency. And so for example, for me, I had a lot of stuff that went on with me recently. And so my posting fell to the side. But when I start back up, I'll do 3 times a week. because that gives me time to focus on engaging. Because you do need to engage before and after you post, at least for a little while, because LinkedIn doesn't like for you to just post and ghost, which means post and then leave. So 3 times is great, 2 times is good. Anything more than that, you are just excellent. Um, yeah,
Okay.
because but when you're talking about executives, that time just isn't
Yeah.
there to
Right.
engage 5 times a week and to post 5 times a week or more. It's just not there, which is why a lot of people come to us. It's not because they're not capable of writing, or they don't know what to write. It's because they would rather spend an hour and a half with me, get all their thoughts out, write these posts, and then they can spend time focusing on the engagement, which won't take nearly as long as writing all of the posts.
Right. 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 So how do you, I guess, how can someone come up with new content to post
Mhm.
consistently? Like, what do you say to someone who's like, I don't know what else to post. I feel like I didn't post everything I could possibly post about what I do. What
Mhm.
would you say to that person, or what tips would you have for that
So it's
situation?
helpful to have content pillars first that you go off of. So you're not just thinking, okay, what do I want to talk about today? And so when you have content pillars, those are going to be like 3 things that you want to focus on. So for you, that might be, um, well, do you have content pillars that you
I
know
do.
of? Okay. You
I
want to
do.
share or no? You don't
Yeah,
have.
sure.
Okay.
Storytelling, limiting beliefs, LinkedIn visibility, and there's another one. I don't remember
Okay.
now. But
So
yeah.
with those content pillars, okay, whatever I write about needs to go into one of these categories. That's how you keep yourself focused. Once you get to a point where you feel like I've said everything I can say, you have a few options. If you've been posting for a while,
What's
like
a while?
longer than a year.
Okay.
So I would say posting consistently longer than a year. So not one post a month. But if you're posting 2 to 3 times a week for a year, you can start reusing posts because the people following you now weren't following you back then. Another option is to look at the comments on your posts and let that serve as inspiration for new posts. That's what happens a lot of times. You can look at current things that are happening in the field that you work in and do discussion posts. Sometimes, if you're having a lazy day and you're like, I do not want to write, pose a question for people to answer, not a poll, because polls don't do as well with reach as they did about a year or two ago. But just pose a question and give a little bit about your opinion on it. Different things like that. Approaching things from a new perspective. So yes, you talked about it, but you talked about how to do this. Well, how about how to not do it? What should you not do in this situation? Tell a story about when someone did what they were supposed to or when they didn't do what they were supposed to. So conversations with clients is a great one as well. When you talk to clients, what are the questions that they're typically asking? Answer those in your LinkedIn posts. Because if they're asking those questions, chances are people following you are asking those same questions, and you can be proactive in answering them. So
Love
now,
that.
through doing that, you're addressing possible objections without having to do it one on one.
Hmm. Another thing too, in terms of like the repurposing, like as if you did like a pretty long post before, maybe you could repurpose it and do a short video saying pretty
Yeah.
much the same thing if it
Hmm.
did well, right? So just I would say look at the ones that did well and see how you could say it again, maybe a different format.
Exactly. I have a client who I'm not using different formats, but he has over 100,000 followers. He just doesn't have time to write anymore. And so my whole job with him is to go through his old posts and repurpose them, rewrite them, make them more current. That's all that I'm doing. I'm not even writing his post from scratch. It's just, okay, this example he used is a little outdated, or this example he used would be considered insensitive now or just
Mm,
culturally irrelevant now. So I'm going in there and changing it up like that. Or, he didn't put this in a list format, but this would be great in a list format. Another client, we don't meet at all. I just look at blog posts and turn those into LinkedIn posts,
nice.
or podcasts. I've done that for a few clients. I get their podcast transcripts, and I break that into a lot of different posts as well. So if you're knowledgeable about what it is that you're doing, you won't run out of content ideas. You just have to get creative with how you talk about them.
Yes, I love that.
Thank you.
That was really good, really good, really good. So, what would you say is the number one thing you wish people knew about showing up on LinkedIn?
Don't try to be like other people. I would say that's my biggest frustration with
Mm,
LinkedIn right now. Um, there's a difference between following LinkedIn best practices and imitating others. And what I see a
mm,
lot of time, the people who are considered LinkedIn influencers, they'll post this advice, and then I see so many people copying exactly what that
mm.
influencer does. Some of them sell templates, and it's like, I'm personally not a fan of templates because
Same,
it's you start to sound like other people.
exactly.
You start to sound just like other people. And you really have to think about who you want to show up as before you decide like how you're going to show up. So, do I want to show up as like the fun, exciting, carefree person? Do I want to be the serious person? Do I want to be, who do I want to be on here? Because chances are who you want to be is something, well, not chances are, you can't imitate someone else and still be yourself. And so
Right.
I get really, really frustrated on LinkedIn when I'm scrolling and I just see the same kinds of posts over and over again, the same advice, the same wording and format and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, you have to, you have to be yourself.
Yeah.
You have to. And that's something that I was kind of nervous about. Being a Black woman working for this agency, I'm the only LinkedIn strategist and ghostwriter for the agency. The founder is white man. He's a great guy, and he attracts a lot of people to the agency for LinkedIn. And so I was nervous, and I even asked him, "Do you think once people find out that I'm writing for them, they'll be hesitant to move forward?" Because, like I said, we work with a lot of people. I think through him, I don't think I have any Black clients actually, and
Hmm.
I only had two women clients since I've been
Interesting.
working there for
Wow.
a year. And so, sexism is real, racism is real. So I was like, do you think that that's going to be a concern? And, I'll never know if there are people who say, oh, never mind, I don't want to do this anymore because I don't think she can write for me. But instead, I'm myself on LinkedIn. And so that way they can decide ahead of time if they want to work with me. you know, in my writing, I'm from Georgia. I say y'all.
Right.
I do stuff like that. But then at the same time, you would never know the post that I go ghostwrite. I write
Right.
for software developers. I know nothing about software development, or I didn't until I started writing for them. And I write like them because I study
Right.
their writing. Um, but anyway, it's just really important to show up as yourself so that way you can attract the kind of clients who would be a fit for you and you're a fit for them, as opposed to attracting them by being someone else, and then now that the business relationship has started, they're like, oh, this isn't right for me.
Right. I love that you brought that up because that's definitely a huge thing that I talk about a lot in terms of just being true to who you are and
Mhm.
authenticity, because if you don't do that unsexy work first to figure out, and get to the root of who you really are, because I feel like we go through life so conditioned to just kind of do what you feel like you have to do for the situation, and we become chameleons in a sense. And it's like, who, wait, if we strip away all these other things or influences, who are you at your core? How do you actually
Right,
talk in real life? Right?
right,
What do you
right.
actually care about? How do you feel about certain things? And then start putting yourself out there, because
Yes.
like you said, you could pick up on it real fast when people don't know who they are,
Hmm.
and they just feel like, oh, I'll just do what the successful quote unquote people are doing,
Yes.
and I'll get where they're at because I'm doing what they're doing. It must work. It works for them, but they don't know the work
Hmm.
that went into that one, and they're not being, like you said, who they are. They're being who that other person is, and it's just a
Exactly.
disconnect,
You
right?
can see
And
through
when
it.
you, yeah, and we really really work hard in my program when clients coming to me about personal branding. that is a key cornerstone piece of it is who are you?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you brought that up. And when you talk about people kind of doing things, I have a question about that because I've seen now people starting to put like their content in the post and then like maybe a little line or separator and then they're kind of introducing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm such and such. I do this, ding the bell. What are your thoughts on that? Is that a trend or is that someone copying someone else? Or what are your thoughts on that? Because I noticed that and I'm like, should I be doing that too?
So it really depends on what your purpose is on LinkedIn. So for some of my clients, they are executives or founders, and so they want to be associated with their company. Like their personal brand and the company are tied together. They're not trying to separate it. For those, it's not really going to help anything. It's good, in my opinion, to do it when you are starting something new on LinkedIn. So what I mean is if you've only been posting like company updates, but now you've decided, okay, I'm going to build a personal brand. It's good to introduce yourself for a while so that people can start to associate you with that new industry or a business that you're starting or whatever it is. It's not going to hurt anything. I have felt like it's cringy to be like, ring my bell. I felt like that's kind of cringy sometimes. Like it's kind of like, but I'm not a salesperson in that sense. Like I prefer much more organic ways of getting people. But it does work because I've seen content that I really liked and I saw that I'm like, oh, I never think about turning on notifications, but because they told me to, I did it. So
Mm.
it does work. Even though I might think it's cringy, I'm still gonna do it. So,
That's it.
I still gotta ring the bell because I want to see this content. So it's definitely a personal preference, but there is value in doing it because you never know which one of your posts is going to do well, and you never know when that's your introduction to someone.
Gotcha. Okay, so check. Add that to my list of things to start doing. On LinkedIn. Deiera approved.
Just don't have like a whole paragraph because people aren't going to read all that.
Well, it's some of them be paragraphs.
Yeah, they don't need to do that.
Okay, a line, one sentence.
Yeah, just let them know, you know, what you post
I
content
help.
about.
Yeah, I help such and such do such and such. Follow me for more
Yeah,
on
and then
these
if you're
topics.
super consistent with posting, you can say, I post on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8. Some people do that. Like that's fine to do. Um, but then that's not something you would have to do forever. It's
Got it.
just,
It's
you know,
just
just for a while.
yeah.
Especially
So
if you see
people.
people are engaging, but they're not really following. It might be because they don't know that
Mm,
this is the content that you post about regularly.
gotcha. Okay. Good insight. Appreciate that. Yes, yes, yes. Well, listen, this has been a lot of fun. You dropped a lot of good information.
Thank
So
you.
if you're listening right now and you feel like you need to get your LinkedIn together, hit up your girl. She's on LinkedIn, Miss Deiera Bennett. And she could give you some tips and tricks on how to really start showing up as a pro on LinkedIn. Follow her, ring her bell on LinkedIn and start showing up. Start showing up, guys. We gotta start showing up in all the places,
Absolutely.
all the spaces, everywhere. We need to be like little ants, all over the place, everywhere. Don't get stepped on though. But well, is there anything else you want to say as we close?
Um, just thank you for listening. And thank you, Mel, for inviting me on. I love sharing this kind
Absolutely.
of information, especially with Black women who I would love to see more of on LinkedIn. So yeah, just connect with me on LinkedIn. Let's talk. Let's, you know, have a business relationship.
I love that. More of us on LinkedIn. Awesome. Well, thank you again. And again, if you need some LinkedIn help, get with Deiera. She's your girl. And if you want to build a personal brand, get with Mel. That's me. Get with your girl and start showing up authentically, guys, right? Show up, but show up as who you are. Do not dismiss the essence of who you are because we are special, we are unique, and we bring something no one else on the planet can bring. So, happy self marketing. Till next time.